I guess you can tell by the title of my podcast tonight. The Fat Lady Just Sung an Opera, kind of the tenor of what I'm going to talk about. This was an ugly game. I thought we'd win by 10, but I thought that we would put Snoop in, who's a mobile quarterback, and have him have a mobile platform, use his legs to earn us some cheap yards. And considering McDaniel comes from the Shanahan tree, there was a guy called John Elway. We would implement some of those things. Remember, Jake Plummer type things to get the heat off the interior offensive line, get him out, cut the field in half, get him on the move. But he wasn't kidding when Mike McDaniel, when he said, we're not changing much. And that's nuts. I mean, that is nuts. I think at this stage, first I was wrong. I didn't think Levis was going to be replaced because he's you could see he's a turnover machine. So basically for my evaluation, all the things I kind of hoped didn't happen. And then the curse of Levis going down really amplified it. So I have to own up to it. But Mike McDaniel's not capable. He's a run game coordinator who we were just desperate for a coach. We wanted Peyton, couldn't get him, got a bunch of guys in. A lot of vets didn't want to be really interview with us, didn't want the job. So we had to go bottom barrel. We got him here. We decided to trade for Hill and went all in on a win. He's just not ready. You can't come into this game like this with this game plan. It's mind-boggling that you can't scheme up plays to get Hill and Waddle open in that 5 or 6 yard mark, get a Snoop on the move, rolling out, crosses across the top, and if he sees it, fine. If not, run, take and run the ball. We had the one draw where you pick up the first down and like one for another first down. Why wasn't that a large staple? At least explore it early to get them thinking. And then, if it's too dangerous for him, then pull off. But Mike McDaniel, I don't think he's a bad guy. But I think that he came here, he was going to solve all the woes of Tua. And, the three main talks, I guess, would be Tua sucks, McDaniel's a genius, and Chris Grier is 4D chess GM, and I think really the 4D chess GM thing and Mike McDaniel being a genius are eliminated. We could debate about Tua, but if you're starting at the top of the food chain, and you got a guy who laughs at you with them stupid fans. You go watch I want to see somebody pull out some offensive line tape and say, it was really good. Because it wasn't. It was terrible. It was terrible display of the offensive line. Now, I don't think that cost us the game. I think that we should have won if we had a competent OC who could he had extra time. But you see even like the penalties on special teams, on offense. And then another thing I talked about at the beginning of the year is the ability of our defensive line. Like so tired of just seeing this crap for 20 something years. I'm like befuddled, anyway, the DI spot was going to be a sore thumb for us. Benito Jones is no good. Peely's a guy you'd want to have as your backup, sort of. Sealer's not really supposed to be there. He's in the 3-4 tech, and like a 3-4, he'd be the best. But that interior offensive line, unless we were blitzing, jamming the line of scrimmage, it didn't hold its water. And those were the two things that I talked about. I said running in the A and B gap, and you saw how the Titans were able to do it. All the teams are doing it around the league. It's part of the new cycle that I talked about 3 years ago. I'm sure maybe other people did. But I know I did, and that was before a lot of people. It's clearly the way. You got to have an offensive line. You got to be able to run inside. You don't have to have the greatest offense. And you got to have a D line that can stop the interior runs. It's called pass balance. You got to go on to center, and you got to go in shotgun. You can't sit in shotgun all day. We kind of saw that in the rain with the Broncos versus the Jets. We're seeing that you can't – in a shotgun, it tells what you're doing in so many ways. It's so easy to dissect, so much easier to dissect than when you're under center. So this offense that we have is no bueno. It shocked the league, and it was a one-trick pony. And McDaniel was the pony, and he was riding Hill, Waddle, and Tua, the all three ponies, and now teams know how to stop it. And because our offensive line is so poor, we can't have any balance. We can't have anything that's going to affect the A and B gaps. So just play exterior. And you can see what a guy like Sweat does to us. But the bottom line is McDaniel's not capable of adjusting. We extended him, and he needs to be fired. Grier, I don't like Chris Grier, but I felt bad. You see a picture of him, like I got on a thumb. He looked worn out. It's terrible. I don't wish that on anybody, but he laughed at us. And he kept Eichenberg feet. I mean, San Fran was able to move off Trey Lance. How much assets were spent on that? And then they found somebody else. But Chris Grier never wanted to really replace Eichenberg and Jackson. Even signed Jackson to $12 million a year, and he's bad. So we're in a bad state. We need to can this whole operation. It's done. It's fried. If he's here next year GMing and using these picks, it is what did Stephen Ross say? Doing the same thing over and over again and getting the same results is the definition of insanity. I've been saying, you can go check my site. I've said Chris Grier is Finn enemy number one. There's a huge media push to talk about Flores. It's not to say Flores is the greatest thing since sliced bread, but now you're hearing, well, McDaniel made all the choices. So you're a GM and you get full control. And then you hire a green coach. He was the big guy who did all these things. And let's say, okay, so it's all on him. It's all on Flores. So then you go hire even greener head coach. And then you bring him in and go, well, whatever you want. You want a punter in the first round? Okay. So however you slice it, either he's really in charge and screwing the whole thing up in the first and maybe the second one, or the second one, maybe I don't know, whatever. Or he's just a clown who doesn't know how to hire the right people, and then he just bends to the knee, whatever their desires are, even though they're not capable. That's not leadership either. However you slice it, Chris Grier needs to get fired. I don't know if we can get somebody better. I don't know what the league thinks about Stephen Ross. It's a sad situation. I do think Stephen Ross really cares for the team and the fans and everything, but he's made a lot of mistakes and did a lot of bridges burned, and a lot of coaches are like, I don't want to come there. And then a lot of coaches are like, I don't want to come there. How many GMs are going to go, I want that job, unless the guy, remember McDaniel? Why'd you take a job? Well, you never know when you're going to get this offer again. So basically it's a chance to set yourself up for life. So you might get a GM here to pay him, but he might be like, I don't think I can make it happen, but hey, I'll take the cash. But a genuine guy to come here, real talent at the GM position, is going to say, can I get a head coach of high caliber, not some green guy picked off the vine someplace? And even if I do get that guy, it's very risky for me. And then I got to develop him over time. I think that if Chris Grier had rebooted after Flores and said, hey, let's restart the whole thing, let Mike McDaniel marinate. Building an offensive line for an offensive coach is critical. It lowers the job level. But Chris Grier kept lowering the talent level on the offensive line, whether he was bowing to McDaniel and his ridiculousness, because McDaniel has some culpability. Zach Tom is one of the best tackles in the league. He could have played any position on the offensive line, and we could have had him, but he was banging his fist for EZ. We could have had him for Tyndall too. So if you want to blame him for the fourth round pick, he was certainly worth the third round pick, Zach Tom. But if you strip down the offensive line, then you raise the difficulty level of the offense, the skill positions, and the OC. And you've got a guy who's green, under an incredible amount of pressure, and you got a quarterback who's got a lot of injury history, and you just keep lowering the offensive line talent, raising the difficulty and raising the possibility for injury. That is what they call the description of ineptitude. Football is not a chalkboard. It's not about all these fancy little things. It is once the physicality is resolved. You've got to have enough physicality. I wanted Sweat. Sweat would have been a very nice piece for us. I mean, I understand you grab Paul, but every year it's the same thing. Hunt, if we had kept Hunt, then we could have got maybe Sweat. If we had Zach Tom, then we wouldn't have needed Paul. We could have grabbed Sweat. So this is a disaster. There's no way to rectify this. All the penalties, the lack of adaptation, inability to stop. This is a pass balance league. You have to run at certain amount in the A and B gap and have a certain amount of success because these nickel defenses playing high leverage is what I said at the beginning of the year. If you can't pull that down, get them a little bit bigger and get to drop the leverage and get them to blitz, then you ain't going nowhere, Charlie. And that's what's happening with this team. It's over. Season's over. Technically, I guess it's not over, but next week's going to be much harder, much better defense. It's on the road. This is going to be a very, the difficulty level from this week to next week is going to be much higher. And it's not going to be easy against Indy. And then you come back and maybe you can say AZ will be, but then you go on to Buffalo. And Buffalo got the snot beat out of them by the Ravens because they can run inside and they can stop the run inside because they got Pierce and Jones. And they got Falalala, I can't say the guy's name. He's a right guard. He's 6'8", 380 pounds. The Bills do not match up against them well. But they match up well against us. So this is likely to be, close to a top 10 pick season. I think, 6 wins, 6 to 8 wins is like maybe less. I don't know. It's not looking pretty, guys. I'll get the film out to you and show you all this stuff, but there's no sense in signing Huntley, who came from the Ravens system, which had a lot of quarterback movement. When you run the Shanahan system, who's built it off Elway and then Plummer, who were mobile quarterbacks, and you could have used all that and tinkered some stuff, but instead you just went with the same old, and got the same old results. That's a definition of ineptitude at the head coaching position. You take your players and you hide their weaknesses and you focus on their strengths to drive their position, their play. He didn't. He made him sit in the pocket and throw the football, and he's not really that accurate. Doesn't have a big arm, but he probably would have been a lot more accurate in the 5 to 10 range or a 3 to 8 range. He would have been a lot more successful. You got him on the move and had some running plays and built some stuff off his mobility, play action rollouts, or nothing, no adjustments. It's over. So I hate to be a bad guy. It's not, I guess I keep going on saying it, but I really would, I'd be surprised if somebody doesn't agree that this is the fat lady singing. I hate to say it. I felt bad, talking to my man PJ over there. I was like, dude, you got this tonight. I just don't understand. I cannot understand that Chris Grier and Mike McDaniel are pros. I mean, they know more about me than football and me, don't get me wrong, but the moves they make are befuddling for someone at that level. I mean, from a macro standpoint, a lot of us saw this stuff, but they didn't. And Chris Grier especially was very mocking, and he had to eat his crow, and he's going to eat his crow. I don't know. Will Ross bring him back next year? I don't know if he can. I think it's going to become untenable. Anyway, guys, I guess I can't beat the dead horse, I'm just disappointed. Even though I saw this for a long time, I'm disappointed. Anyway, my friends, as I say, it could be darkest before the dawn. Somehow, Stephen Ross just finds a GM that's a football guy with balls who says, Stephen, you got a bad rep, If you put in writing, you're out of football business. I'm in charge. And he hires that guy, and Stephen Ross has the humility to pass off control of all football operations to a person who is capable. I don't know if he could find that guy, but I'm sure he could. I mean, he could go. There's people out there he could go to that should be reliable sources and put him in total control in writing. I can't stick my nose in. Then I think we could have a future, but it has to start with that. It can't be a Noah Fudge job with some pencil neck business type to come in to yes, sir, Mr. Ross. I mean, obviously, we'd say yes, sir, Mr. Ross, but not like, whatever you want. No. Mr. Ross, I want to win for you. I want you to see Dolphin success. You cannot interfere. That's the agreement we had. Me and the coaches and everything else. And then I think we could have a chance. Anyway, guys, Curtis saying, be well. Go Fins. Curtis out. Start building your own online sports book today by getting signed up with aceperhead.com service that'll allow you to book action on sports from all around the world.